Heather, Keystone's just one of the contentious issues right now in Washington. The White House has delayed it for years, but not some other issues. Despite the Republican takeover and the wins last week, President Obama is pushing an aggressive agenda on several fronts: the environment, internet regulation, and, of course, immigration. How the Republicans react to these plays? We're joined by Joe Trippi, former Howard Dean campaign manager, and Ed Rollins, former national campaign director for Reagan Bush 84 and former national campaign chair for Mike Huckabee for president. Both they're Fox News contributors. Welcome to you both, Ed. Let me first start with you.
Good to be with you.
Immigration. Man, oh man, they're saying this is going to be like a hand grenade thrown in Congress when the president decides to order his executive order, possibly next week.
Well, first of all, the president can't make people who are illegal legal. What he can do is he can say, I'm not going to prosecute them, I'm not going to move them out of the country. At the end of the day, that's not going to basically fix the immigration system. We need, and it takes a long time to do this. It took almost 5 years for the 86 bill to get done. It was a bipartisan bill. In my sense, in the next year, year and a half, you can have a very important bill passed in both houses of the Congress that will basically solve a lot of these problems. If the president wants to push this thing through, you're still going to create a permanent underclass. You may have 4 million illegals in the country who they're not being forced out, but at the same time, they're not going to be legal citizens. There's no path for citizenship there. And it'll just antagonize the Republicans dramatically.
Joe, what happens if the Republicans are antagonized dramatically?
Well, I mean, there's any number of things that could happen. I mean, everything from trying to stop the funding for any of this so that, it ends up with some kind of partial shutdown of the government. I'm not predicting any of that, but it's kind of, look, this is going to inflame passions on both sides. The president clearly looks to be going to issue an executive order, and the Republicans aren't going to be happy with that. There's only a couple things they could do: challenge that in court afterwards, try to stop some of the funding, potentially hold the government for shutdown. All these are fraught with danger on both sides, both the president's actions and how the Republicans respond to it, particularly because of the divisions within the Republican Party on immigration right now. How they respond to it, there are dangers for them as well. So it's definitely a precarious situation. But there's danger on both sides, not just with the president.
Well, Joe, I mean, the president has said that he would not do it if there was congressional legislation. And what if he just doesn't do it? I mean, there are warnings today from Capitol Hill. Angus King, the independent from Maine, Ed and Joe said this: I think it will create a backlash in the country that could actually set the cause back and inflame our politics in a way that I don't think will be conducive to solving the problem. So, Ed, what happens when a president goes ahead, does what he wants, even if he's saying he's acting on principle, and not compromise?
Well, this was a president who was a part-time adjunct constitutional law professor. He ought to go back and read the Constitution. There are certain roles, responsibilities a president has, and certain roles and responsibilities a Congress has. Congress passes the laws. The president's supposed to enforce the laws. This president is clearly saying, I'm not going to enforce the laws. I don't think that's going to do any good to the millions of Americans who are in here, or millions of illegals that are in here, on getting them the way to being legal citizens. And I think to a certain extent, it just will antagonize the system. We've just had the election. Obviously, the country voted a different direction than the president might have wanted. And at this point in time, why not let the new Congress come in? Why don't they let them have some time to try and work this out? And if they can, great.
Joe, why doesn't the president do that? Is it unconstitutional?
No, look, he's waited a year for the bill that was bipartisanly passed in the Senate to be acted on by the House. It hasn't been. The lame duck could do that. If they did, there'd be no reason for him to issue executive orders to wait. There are millions of people who either are supposed to be being deported right now, and if the Republicans want to advocate that, which I don't think they do. I mean, all this is a complicated mess that has to have some action taken. The president's going to take it when Congress hasn't. They certainly, as the president's pointed out, can in the next year enact new legislation, pass new laws that that are reform and alter his take his executive order out of out of action.
Well, what do you think's
but they
happen?
haven't done that.
But as you know, Joe, the Senate bill that was passed, a lot of those senators voted for it, know it was going to be fixed in the House, and you wouldn't pass that same bill today, I promise you. So at the end of the day, you can't say the Senate passed it, so therefore the House has to pass it. That's not the way our system works. and it goes way back for a long, long time. And going back to the '86 bill, there were certain segments that got passed by the Senate, certain segments got passed. It all came together, and they worked on it in conference. That's what needs to happen here. And the House has made it very clear from the beginning they want to do it implementally. They want to get certain elements. They don't want an omnibus bill, particularly after the omnibus bill we had, it's called Obamacare, that was shoved through by this president and the speaker and the former, who'll be the former majority leader. And there's a lot of things in there a lot of people don't like.
Well, but Ed, that's exactly why we're going to have why the president's going to issue executive orders to adjust and take care of some of the problems that he can, while we wait around for the Senate and the House to do the business that you're talking about.
Well, so he's going to make laws. He's going to make laws now. I mean, is that the new role of the president?
No, we don't know. We don't know. Let's wait and see what the executive order is. I know there's all kinds of rumors about it, but everybody's judging it before they see it.
Joe, we kind of know what the executive order is. It would probably grant legal status to like maybe 4.5 or more million illegals, and that is the issue, whether he is trying to take the making of laws into his own hands, or if he does have the constitutional right to do that.
He cannot make. He can't make them legal. You have to understand. But it's very important. People keep talking about him making them legal. He cannot. The only people who can make them legal is the powers of the Congress. What he can do is not deport them. And that's, in essence, what he can do. He can basically say, okay, you violated a law, but you get to stay in the country for as long as I'm president or beyond.
Right. And if the Republicans believe whatever action he takes is unconstitutional, then they can, and the Supreme Court can say that. But that hasn't happened yet, and we don't know that it will be.
We'll have to end the debate there. That is what we face
no debate, just discussion.
Next week. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.